This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. You know who's not happy about J.D. Vance being selected? MAGA. MAGA Republicans who woke up and realized that J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, happens to be Indian American, and her parents are Indian immigrants. And their children, 3 of them, at least 2 of them, have classic Indian names like Vivek and Ewan. And there's pictures of the family Vance that are being circulated by MAGA, criticizing them and sometimes putting them up against what people claim to be Democratic families of blonde, blue-eyed white people. And even Nick Fuentes, who, by the way, has a connection to Donald Trump, is an alt-right white supremacist who has a podcast. Even he questioned out loud about whether and how they should accept J.D. Vance and how they can trust him on immigration when he has a family that looks like that. I am not making this up. Here's what Nick Fuentes, supporter of the Proud Boys, supporter of all of the marches in Charlottesville, this is what he just said.
J.D. Vance also has a non-white wife, an Indian wife, and a kid named Vivek. All his kids have Indian names. So it's like, what exactly are we getting here? And that's not a dig at him just because I'm a racist or something. But it's like, who is this guy really? Do we really expect that the guy who has an Indian wife and named their kid Vivek is going to support white identity? Like, there's a white genocide going on in the world. White people are being systematically replaced in America and Europe through immigration and to a much lesser extent due to intermarrying. This guy has a non-white wife and a kid named Vivek. This guy is going to be a defender of white identity? I don't think so. This guy's going to defend American identity? If he does, it's going to be no better than any of these other civic nationalists like Vivek Ramaswamy. How else could you countenance American identity if you have a mixed up family like that?
And then he goes on to say, I am not making this up, folks. He goes on to say, hey, what gives with all the race mixing and brown baby names where my real Caucasian family's at? That's from Nick Fuentes' podcast. He's a MAGA. He's a supporter of Donald Trump. And Usha, who clerked for John Roberts, Supreme Court Justice, she's a lawyer, who also clerked for Brett Kavanaugh before he became a United States Supreme Court Justice, who purportedly was Democrat, is a practicing Hindu, and apparently the family is too, took to the stage at the RNC convention, a stage where they were chanting just moments before and around her about mass deportations and locking up immigrants. And yet she took the stage glowing about her husband, J.D. Vance, who at his prior life as an author, making the author's circuit, said that Donald Trump was America's Hitler, that he is a needle in the arm of America. That's not a thumbs up for what he's saying. I'm just reporting it. That Donald Trump, this is J.D. Vance now, is a needle in the arm of America, right? That he's a drug that should be rejected, that he's an idiot, and that he's going to lead the country to ruin. That J.D. Vance. And now MAGA's waking up and they're saying, who is this J.D. Vance guy? And why does he have a brown wife? I mean, I'm giving you like my artist rendering of their opinions. I mean, there's enough social media out there that indicates that they were as surprised as anybody by the selection. I mean, for instance, let me just for a moment, just to sort of round this out as MAGA loses its mind over Usha. Let's just go through it here, just so you understand what I'm talking about. Or the headline that I liked from one of the news outlets was racist maggots find out Trump's VP pick J.D. Vance has an Indian wife and family, and they're not okay with it, as if they have a choice. One Trump supporter posted a picture of JD, a beardless JD with his wife holding one of their children a number of years ago, and just said, I'm sure this guy is going to be great on immigration. Another one posted Trump VP nominee JD Vance and his Indian wife, she's Indian American, by the way, have 3 children named Uwan, Vivek, and Mirabelle. He's not one of us. Another post posted a photo of a large, white, blonde, blue-eyed family next to a picture of J.D. Vance, his wife Usha, and 2 of their children, and said, "What went wrong?" Another posted just a picture of them when a beardless J.D. Vance, a number of years ago, with his wife, saying just this following. J.D. Vance's wife is Indian, by the way. Another one named Adolf Hipster said the problem isn't that his wife is Indian, but that she's not a Christian, and his children all have Indian Hindu names. By the way, I'm not sure Mirabelle is an Indian Hindu name, but let's leave it at that. She spoke tonight. This is him. This is this guy commenting about her speech, the same speech at the convention where people are chanting for mass deportation of people like her parents. She spoke tonight about how Vance gave up his traditional American diet. Oh, here we go. We're getting very close to Dr. Strangelove territory now. The traditional American diet. To adopt veganism with her and learn how to cook Indian vegan food for her family. This makes Vance an emasculated cuck, C-U-C-K, inside his own household and family. And it gets worse, not better. This episode of Legal AF is brought to you by Manakora Honey, also known as the honey with superpowers. Let me share something sweet with you, and I mean really sweet. It's something that's become a staple in my routine, and I think you're going to love it. I'm talking about Manakora Honey. When I say honey, you might be picturing those bear-shaped bottles at the supermarket. But that's not what this is. Manakora Honey is single origin, rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you've ever had. It's supercharged with unique antioxidants and prebiotics and has 3 times more than your average honey. Manakora Honey supports immunity, aids digestion, boosts energy, and helps balance inflammation. It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 to 3 teaspoons a day. On top of that, Manakora Honey has a natural antibacterial compound called MGO, only found in Manuka honey. So if you're looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine, we found your new healthy habit. Now it's easier than ever to try Manakora Honey with the starter kit. Just head to manakora.com/legalaf to get $25 off. The starter kit comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, plus a guidebook. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can bring them with you when you're traveling or need a quick snack running errands. And they are the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. That's manukora.com/legalaf to get $25 off your starter kit. This is the ultimate honey indulge. And try some honey with superpowers from Manakora. Manakora is incredible, and I'm so thankful they're a partner of the show. I look forward to Manakora every morning. Make sure you click the link in our description or head to manakora.com/legalaf and try some today. So I am sure in Donald Trump's addled mind, when he rejected Nikki Haley, an Indian-American governor from South Carolina, who ended up getting on the stage as well during mass deportation chants, which should have sent a chill down her spine, being a first-generation or second-generation child of immigrants, who, of course, said she's never suffered racism in her entire life as a brown child in South Carolina, of all things. I'm sure Donald Trump's checklist was, well, I'm not going to get Nikki Haley, but I got the next best thing because I've got a brown wife of my vice president candidate, or words to that effect. But that'll backfire because the Republican tent and the GOP tent is really not, that's a thumbs up, is really not broad to include lots of different people and diversity. This is an organization. This is a cult that is against diversity and inclusion, who uses diversity and inclusion as a weapon whenever there's a failing of some sort or a tragedy, like a bridge collapses or what happened in Pennsylvania. It's the fault of black mayors or women Secret Service agents. This is what they say out loud. So it's not a big tent of unity, right? Because you picked a token 39-year-old white guy who's really a Silicon Valley venture capitalist to try to appeal to white working poor in the Rust Belt because he wrote a semi-fictional novel about memoir about his childhood. And it doesn't make you a large tent just because he happens to have married the love of his life, who's an Indian American woman, and she gets up on stage to tout her husband, which I would expect. Not faulting her for that. I mean, she had to have looked around in chilling display of just raw power, animus, and discrimination and bigotry on display during the RNC. Chants of mass deportation and lock up immigrants. And then couple that with MAGA, true MAGA, who now have realized that there's maybe a brown second lady who's going to be elected, who's going to go into office if Trump were to be elected. Tells you everything you need to know about the party. I mean, Nick Fuentes is not an outlier. He's not a rogue. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an outlier. They represent the beating heart and soul. No, there's no soul. The beating heart of this party. There's no other way to put it. The sell-by date for the Republican Party, it's done. Put it on the tombstone. That party died in 2016, and it has never recovered. And should anybody find it surprising that they are now cannibalizing and knives are out and they're going after Usha Vance because they just woke up and realized that she's not a person. She's not a accomplished woman. She's not a lawyer and litigator in her own right. She's not a former Supreme Court clerk. She's a brown wife. This shows you the rampant stream and strain of misogynistic conduct and approach and racism in the Republican Party. They're not celebrating the Indian American wife of their vice presidential candidate. They're pillaring her. They're attacking her and him and calling him a shapeshifter, which they're right about. They're calling him a chameleon of the worst kind. They don't know who he is. Who is J.D. Vance? Is he the Manchurian candidate? Right? And this is the person that they think could be president of the United States if something were to happen to the guy at the top of the ticket. That was the first judgment that Donald Trump made on the heels of already been the subject of an attack in Pennsylvania, was to pick a 39-year-old Silicon Valley hedge fund guy who never accomplished anything in his life and wrote a book, who served in the Senate for about 8 months and almost didn't get out of his primary until he genuflected and butt kissed Donald Trump. That's how he got out of that primary and won the Senate seat, and hasn't accomplished a darn thing in the Senate. Name me one bill that he's been able to sponsor. Name me one law that's been passed. Name me one thing that he's done in all of his time in the short amount of time in the Senate. Nothing. What, he ran a charity, back in Ohio for poor children based on hillbilly elegy. That's it. That qualifies you to be the leader, one heartbeat away to be the leader of the free world, to occupy the Oval Office, to be the commander in chief. I mean, I had thought that after what happened in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump would reverse, because I had heard about J.D. Vance. And when I saw J.D. Vance's tweet within seconds of what happened in Pennsylvania, blaming Biden and President Biden's rhetoric, talk about projection, talk about gaslighting for what happened in Pennsylvania, I said, oh, this guy is definitely getting picked. Either he knew he was about to get picked and did that, or that was the last thing Donald Trump needed. The last bootlick he needed to pick J.D. Vance. But I thought Donald Trump would say, well, Maybe I need to pick somebody more mature, somebody more qualified, at least ran a state. Maybe, the guy from North Dakota, maybe Marco Rubio, somebody else that's at least been in the government, in the public eye and has done something. Nope. No, just looking for the person who's the most malleable, the most impressionable, the most willing to do whatever Donald Trump says, jump how high, insurrection, tell me where, and JD Vance has been, talk about flip-flop, talk about just spinning in the wind like a weather vane. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. And now he has to wake up to real America and real MAGA America that don't accept his wife or his Indian Hindu lifestyle or his children. That's the America. He should worry less about protecting the rights of white people, which seems to be his entire campaign reason for existing. And he should care more about families that look like his and wives and husbands that look like his and how they're treated in a Republican administration, in a MAGA America. That should be his concern. But of course it's not. And now they have to see the ugly, I was going to say the ugly side of MAGA, but it's just the side, that'd be redundant, the side of MAGA that we all know and experience, but now directed towards his wife, Usha. We'll continue to follow all of these contradictions and inconsistencies and immoral conduct and behavior on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. Help us build this network by word of mouth. That's the only way we do it. Got almost 3 million free subscribers. Help us reach that total before the November election. And if you like what I'm doing, leave me a comment and a thumbs up. Till my next hot take, till my next Legal AF, says Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.